Mr. Guillaume Pin, Deputy Head of Unit for North Africa at the Director General for the Neighborhood, DG NEAR, at the European Commission. Guillaume has also brought 3 colleagues. I think one will be online who will also share a few words after Guillaume's presentation. Without further ado, let me first turn to you, Julia. Can you tell us what is the link precisely between women empowerment and water access in cities, and how can we strengthen this link?
Thank you, Anne. So for the Cities Alliance, this event today is very important. This topic is very important because in our work across cities, when we ask women, what is the key priority for you to improve your life and also the life of your community, often they respond water access, safe water access. And women's empowerment and access to water has a strong link. And this link has, I think, 3 dimensions that I think we have to consider and know. The first dimension is related to gender role and responsibilities. In fact, women are the ones that are protecting and maintain water sources. They are the one in charge of water storage and use at the household level. They are the one that need to walk long distances to collect water when there is no access at the household level. And they are the ones also that are expected also to care for the sick family members as a result of waterborne disease. The second dimension is related to climate change vulnerability. So in case of water scarcity and drought, the daily tasks related to daily water collection and care are becoming more difficult, putting additional burden on women, limiting their opportunities for jobs, for economic activities and educational activities, and also increasing their exposure to violence, including sexual assault. So all the inequalities are linked to water. So we are looking at water, but in fact, then we have to consider all the other inequalities related to this. The third dimension of this link is their presence, women's presence in water governance. So despite the fact that they are performing 80% of the informal and unpaid water provision work, women constitute only 17% of the formal and paid water workers in developing countries. And they hold less than 6% of all ministerial positions related to water and natural resources. So I think we have here an exception. Still, it's such an important position and topic, and women are not present. So in fact, women are leaders at the community level, they are in NGO sectors related to agriculture, food production, and so on, but they don't have equal access to institutions and decision-making process. So I think if we want to promote inclusive and safe water access in cities, we need to consider these 3 dimensions. We need to challenge roles and responsibilities. And at the same time, we have to reveal through data, through evidence, women's specific vulnerability to climate change. And we need to improve their presence, agency, and power in water control and management. I think the project that I'm very happy to launch today try to do that, to in fact address these 3 dimensions of water empowerment and access to water. It's a program that is called Vie Durable pour les Femmes, and is developed in partnership with the French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs, that I also want to thank. We worked really closely in the past months to develop this program in close dialogue with, of course, local authorities and also NGOs in 3 countries, Mauritania, Morocco, and Tunisia, countries that are facing similar climate challenges and are also facing the issues of drought. There is less and less water, and in connection to that, there is flooding. And this topic, yes, today we are talking about MENA, but in fact is a global topic. It's a Mediterranean topic, a global topic. I come from a region in Bologna, in Italy, that is right now underwater. So I think we have to make our cities more resilient. We have to include women to make also to cope with this issue that is not anymore an emergency, is a fact, is a reality. The program that we are launching today has 3 components. I will just briefly present them. The first one that we are just starting is basically about collecting gender data. We will do it in a participatory way. We will use also here. So a tool that we have developed, which is called Add for Climate, to understand and reveal the role played by women in water collection and in improving water access for all, and also understanding also the specific obstacles and barriers for their participation in water governance. Once we have data, we understand better the situation, the local level, then we will implement specific projects at the community level. These are not defined yet. This will be a participatory process. So we'll do it together with women of the community. We are already in touch with different NGOs. And so the intervention could be the construction of water pumps, the refurbishment of public spaces, the creation of rain center collection system, or, for example, in the case of K1 in Tunisia, could be also the restoration of existing water collection system, ancient water collection system that are not being used anymore. The third component, which I still think is also important and connected with what we are doing today, is using the power of advocacy. So using the learning also from this project, which is still in a pilot phase, so we'll also experiment somehow, to advocate for more gender-focused funding for water program in the region. So I think we need to elevate also voices from local NGOs, data collected, stories, experiences, to really stress the linkages between women empowerment and water access. And so the objective of the today's meeting, we are just in a starting phase of the program. So for us, it's also important to listen to the voices, with experiences of experts from the region to shape, to better the program. And at the same time, of course, this program is developed with France, but we are also looking for other allies, other partners to enlarge the program in other countries, in other cities, to make it really a real impact on the ground. So I'm very happy to listen to the other distinguished speakers and to learn. And also I'm looking forward to start the program very soon on the ground.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Julia. Hopefully this can be the starting point for more discussion on how to scale up this great initiative. Now I'm turning to the next speaker, Charafat. So I said at the start that Morocco is extremely water stressed, subject to 80% decrease in freshwater use. So I have actually a double question for you. First is, has your government been responding to this pressing challenge of water scarcity in Morocco in an integrated way involving women? And then secondly, it would be interesting for us to, if you could share a few words on your current role as a steering committee member of the Global Water Partnership, how in this, with this work you are supporting women in water governance and water diplomacy. So please, the first.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be with you in this event to talk about one of my favorite topic. It's the gender and women, and we know that water is a key gender and water sector, and we know that women could play a key role in building peace, in building stability, as the water sector is a vector of peace and stability in the world. We are now facing a very big problem that women is the most affected by climate change and water scarcity in all the parts of the world, as the women play a key role in the water sector. She is the responsible of managing water in their family, in their houses, and even when the system collapses, the women should bring the solution and should find alternatives. So he is the responsible to find the solution and the alternatives regarding water shortage and even sanitation sector. The second point that I want to raise is water scarcity affects the young girl education. So we know that young girls, spend a lot of time by bringing water and walking many kilometers. It affects health as well and affects financial autonomy for the women. So the women that have some activities that need and require water as a resources, when the water scarce, within the water shortage, they are the most affected by need or lack of water. The deterioration of quality of course of water could have affect their health, the neonatal. We have many data related to the neonatal. This all idea and these pictures push some actors and some developer actors to raise the role that women could play in building pace, in dealing with climate change, in finding other solutions. So I want to raise the Moroccan case in this event, how we play to put women more visible in the water sector. As a former minister, of course, when I arrived, the people was asking why we appointed women as a minister to lead the water sector, because the water sector need more force, need maybe big muscles to deal with flooding, deal with dams, in supervising civil work in dams. It has been stereotyped as all parts of Arab countries and maybe in European countries. And I figure out as well, the women, despite their qualification, despite their skills, despite their diploma, they were poorly visible. They working in the back office, but at the decision level, there is no woman holding the senior level position. We worked with UN Women how to integrate a gender transformative approach in the water sector, in policy, in programs, also in the legislative way by voting a water law. And by this pedagogical way, we change the mentalities. Even the women who were director, they think how to help their wives in houses when they come as a testimony. One director said that when I come to the house, I think about what I learned in the training. So I go to the kitchen, I help my wife cleaning dishes, everything. So in this way, we conduct and we lead the change at the mentality level, and also we bring some innovative and other solution in the table in building through policy, in building equality by sharing water and building some behaviors and some values, how to be diverse and how to bring all expectation and aspiration for all the people, including men and women. The other thing that we bring into to keep the opportunity for brilliance and for smart young women to lead the senior position. And it was very, very good achievement that we bring the women at the board as a part of the decision and that. The third point that I want to raise in the regulatory framework, this is maybe a good achievement. By voting the law, we put in the female association, we set the quota for the female association at the basin level, and to bring them to the board to manage the water in an integrative way by putting 30% of female association to be part in the council of basin council, which is a governance body at the basin level, to take into account how we share water, how we could deal with the climate change and share water equally between farmers, female farmers and the male farmers, between as well women who lead in their families. It was a good achievement. I want to raise also one other point. In Zagora, for example, I have here the member of Moroccan embassy. We have conflicts between farmers and the population who are asking for drinking water, because There is no enough water for all. We figured out how the women find innovative solution, how to share water and to take into account the need of the local population for drinking water, and keep an amount for the farmers. This is maybe the good point that we can. Women are able to bring innovative solution, are able to bring a new way to fight against wastewater and to deal with climate change, to deal with water shortage, because they are managing their household, so they can find with the ways to deal with climate change. What we need now to deal with that is there is no ways other to bring women at the level at the decision-making position. They can impact policies, they can impact strategies, they can take into account the need of young women, the need of young girls, and make the decision more, bring the justice to make the decision very correct. This is the only way that if we want change our vision regarding the water sector or regarding the climate change. We need to empower women to take the lead, to play the key role in the water sector. This is maybe I can give you an overview about an initiative that we have launched under the umbrella of Global Water Partnership and Geneva Water Hub, how to empower young women working in the water sector to play a key role in the water sector. It's called Empowering Women in the Water Diplomacy and Water Governance. The initiative was launched in 2020, including Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, and Egypt and Morocco. We set a network with young women working in the water sector in different institutions, and we are working with them to make them the female water leader in tomorrow. This is an initiative that we can find an option to bridge with what you are doing in City Alliance or in DCP to find other. We have done a lot of work, and we are following the journey of these young women, how they improve in this career by holding a key role in the water sector. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. And thanks for really explaining us from the Moroccan perspective, also what you're doing at different governance level, not only at the local level to empower women with better water access, but also regulatory, the laws, how you're adjusting and also a strong call for women empowerment at the policy-making level as water diplomats. So thank you. Now I'm turning to Manar from Jordan Valley Authority. For you, I would also have two questions. One, so we know that your country, Jordan, is one of the driest in the region. So my first question would be here, if you can tell us very practically how you are coping with water scarcity and also involving women in this endeavor. And my second question is, of course, today we are focusing really on the local city level, but these efforts are also affected by regional political shifts, as the Jordan River is, of course, shared among a few countries, sometimes in politically contentious contexts, which can then have negative repercussions on what's happening on water access in cities. So so these two questions, if you could try in about 10 minutes to respond.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Your Excellencies. Good morning, everybody. Talking about water situation in Jordan, I think it needs too long time. So in case that I exceed my time, just give me a sign. Okay. Yeah. At the outset, I'd like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to the organizer and the sponsor of this event to inviting me to take part in this activity as a panelist from Jordan to shed light in the water situation in Jordan. Water scarcity in Jordan born primarily from its geographical location, which classified to arid to semi-arid and characterized very low and fluctuated annual rainfall. This serves effects on the surface and groundwater. More than 90% of the total area in Jordan received less than 70 millimeter of the rainfall, annual rainfall. Of course, this negatively affects the sustainable of renewable water resources. More in that, Jordan is located, the geographical location of Jordan. Jordan is located in the downstream of the transboundary water resources, which is make difficult to have its water allocations from these shared water according to its needs. Inequitable share depending on the large area and population number and other criteria illustrated in the international water law and water convention. The policy in this part take a very a key role in this. طبعا nonetheless, Jordan signed 3 shared water agreements with its neighbor countries. In 1987, we signed an agreement with Syria to share the water resources in Yarmouk Basin. In 1994, under the peace treaty with Israel, the article number 2 covered the water sector. And in 2015, we signed an agreement with Saudi Arabia to share the groundwater resources in Tizi Basin. Unfortunately, this agreement didn't, specifically the one that we signed with Syria, there is no water allocation in this agreement. They just agreed to build a dam, Al Wahda Dam, with the total storage capacity around 1 and 10 million cubic meters. And that's it. This is, there's no quantity defined in this agreement. While in the agreement that we signed with Israel, there's a certain quantity of water that's defined in this agreement. But unfortunately, it's not fair for Jordan. When we north to the northern part of the Jordan Valley, we see Sea Galilee, which is full of water, around 4 billion cubic meters. While in fact, in this agreement, we just get 10 million cubic meters desalinated water, and there's other articles in this agreement that they didn't implement till now. So that we asked 2 years ago, we asked Israel, government of Israel, to buy 50 million cubic meters because in the last 2 years, the impact of the climate change affect the Jordan. Okay, it's affecting all the countries, but mainly in Jordan because the dams in the southern region of Jordan is totally dried, and we depend in 2 main dams, Wahda dams and Mujib dams in the south. It's totally dried, so we ask Israel to provide us with water, and they agree, but we pay for this. It's costly, and we pay our rights of water from Israel. The second reason behind the water scarcity in Jordan is unstable political situation in the Middle East area, which led Jordan to bear all the cost of the subsequent conflicts and violence occurred in the region since 1948 till the last decade. And we all know that the refugees from Palestine, from Syria, from other Arab countries. Water crisis in Jordan is not a matter. The sudden waves of refugees imposed a huge pressure on the limited available resources in Jordan, affect the infrastructure. They shared the Jordanian people with all resources, all services, but particularly they affect the water because the water resources in Jordan is limited. It's not enough for the Jordanian people, and with the refugees, they shared us all our resources in Jordan. The water crisis in Jordan it's not a matter of management or governance. It's surely a matter of the resources and the needs for different growing of the sectors, whether for the agriculture, for the industrial, or for domestic use. Ministry of Water and Irrigation directs its effect toward implementation one of the mega projects in Jordan, and I think it's in the second or third one in the world, is to desalinate and transfer water from Red Sea to a highly populated area for the Amman Governorate and the Governorate in the northern part of Jordan. The estimated amount of water is around 300 million cubic meters annually, and this turn will contribute in solving the problem of the shortage of water significantly, despite the highest cost associated with this. It's very expensive, the cost of water very expensive to desalinate, not the desalinated water itself, but to transfer the water from Aqaba to other governorates. We are talking about around 450 kilometers, the length of the pipes from the desalinated plant to other countries. But it's the strategic solution for Jordan and we consider it really, it's one of the most important projects for Jordan to cope with the water scarcity in our resources. Hopefully this project will be implemented, hopefully, inshallah, in 2027. And in the beginning of July, we will receive the technical and financial offers from the bidders. Also, there is a strong intent from the government of Jordan to bring 200 million cubic meters from Israel and under the deal of water against solar power. We signed a declaration for intent between Jordan and Israel 2 years ago, I think in 2021, 2022, and hopefully this will be implemented in 2031. Now we are under negotiation between Jordan and Israel to how to provide us with this water and the source of the water and the cost of the water. National Water Strategy 2023-2040 published this year highlighted and addressed the non-revenue water as one of the most priority to be achieved gradually. The non-revenue water is around as an average 52%, which is very high compared with the other countries. And in this strategy, non-revenue water will be decreased by 2% yearly and 5% when the national water conveyance put in operation. Briefly, the total water supply in Jordan, it's about 1.1 billion cubic meters, 480 million cubic meters allocated for domestic use, 500 million cubic meters allocated for irrigation requirements, and about 35 million meters for industrial use. In the last 2 years, we decreased the quantity of water that we provide for the farmers because the domestic use is the priority for us.
Yeah, thank you. If I can interrupt to the question, because we hear a lot, like the focus also of today's discussion is the role of women, and we hear that they play an invisible force in water access. So in, let's say, the water strategy of Jordan, or these like the desalination project, transportation from the Red Sea to Amman, is there also a gender or a women empowerment factor integrated into this?
Women empowerment, and sorry, I talk in details about the water situation because really, we suffer from this, and I'd like to present our strategies and policies to cope with this. Regarding women empowerment and inclusion is considered one of the most important topics that the water sector emphasizes and rely on. The current period, and so whether it's in the current period and in the future plan. Jordanian water sector in this context is in line with the principles declared by the United Nations towards gender file. That implies treat all the people fairly at work, respectively, and supporting non-discrimination and human rights, which is fully adopted in the water sector without any violation for these principles. If we talk about the Civil Service Bureau, which its role is to recruit people in government entities, there's the male and female are the same. Even in health insurance, they get their rights, whether they are men or women. For male and female, they are the same. There's not at least doubt that the female and Jordanian community could play a very important role in water management and conservation at the case of Jordan, since they consider as water users and utility customers and potential advocate for behavior change. So water sector in Jordan affirms a commitment to support the woman empowerment, and this covered under the article in the water strategy. Her Excellency, the ambassador, she will talk in detail, so I will take this, leave this part for her. The top management, if we are talking about Jordan Valley Authority, the top management of Jordan Valley Authority is headed by me, by a lady, by a female, and it's not easy to deal with the farmers, to deal with the people that they have. They feel that they have their right in lands, they have their right in irrigation waters. Dealing with people for domestic use, it's too easy because they are aware their attitude and their thoughts and beliefs that the water situation in Jordan is difficult. But for the farmers, they said that I want water. They didn't agree or accept or hear from the government that there's a scarcity water in Jordan, and we're suffering from the shortage in our resources. They just want water. So dealing with the farmers is not easy. And to ask a female to hire a female to be the leader of this entity, it's not an easy decision. It's the first time that the female be the Secretary General of Jordan Valley Authority, and this deal that send a message that the woman has its role in the government decisions and to set the policies, to set the strategies, and Secretary General of Ministry of Water and Irrigation. She was in the past, she was a lady, and maybe you deal and you know her very well, Engineer Maysoon Zabi. So I myself occupy different high-ranking position as Secretary General of Jordan Valley Authority, which is a critical one. The co-chairman of Joint Water Committee between Jordan and Israel, and also I'm a member of the Joint Water Committee between Jordan and Syria, and we conduct many meetings with the Israel side. With Syria till now we didn't because of and it's not safe in that time to conduct a meeting with them. And also you asked me 2 days ago about the rehabilitation of Jordan River. And I'm the chairman of the head of the steering committee of rehabilitation of Jordan River between Jordan and Israel. If you like, I may give a brief about the rehabilitation of Jordan River, but I think
we are a bit short in time. Maybe during the discussion later on, we can go back to that. We can elaborate on this. We will have some. Yes.
Just it's regarding the irrigation water and dealing with the farmers. GBA introduced since 2003 the concept of water user association, in which we managing and distributing the irrigation water in the Jordan Valley, and this engaged to this done by the farmers, the private sectors, and they take the role in this. We transfer our role in distributing and managing the water, irrigation water, to the farmers. We sign an agreement under the title Water User Association. Unfortunately, the woman participation in this aspect was not sufficient. In our strategy 2024-2026, which we are working on, we set this in as an article that to engage the woman in Water User Association to take a role in managing and distributing water for the farmers. In the Jordan Valley, mainly in the southern part of the Jordan Valley, the farmers as a woman, a female, they play a key role in agriculture, not in distributing water because they are not involved in now, but we prepare as an awareness program, a training program for the female as a farmers in the valley to take a key role in this event. And thank you very much for listening and for these important questions.
Okay, thanks a lot for sharing your very rich insights. It's too bad we don't have so much time to go more into detail. Now I'm turning to our next speaker, Guillaume. So you will have also colleagues. I'm just checking where they...
So the two colleagues here and one is online.
Perfect. Yes. So my question to you is, we all know that the European Union has very long-term cooperation with the Mediterranean region. If you can give us a broad overall regional perspective, how the European Commission is supporting the water sector and integrating this gender perspective in the work, and then I will turn to your respective colleagues.
Thank you very much, and I'm very honored to be part of that eminent panelist among yourselves. First of all, a personal view that I think if all the military armies in the world had the women in charge, I think I would feel safer on that planet. And I think the World Bank also published a recent study recently on all the positive impact of more empowered women and women communities on economic development of all countries across the world. And I think that was also a very important study, also in the field of economists. That was very welcome. And today, and I think the last three interventions were quite strong in showing the link between also development in the water issues and development of women at the same time, strengthening each other. Also in terms of governance, as Julia has mentioned, so it's not only water issues for women, but it's also water solutions thanks to women. It has to be in both sense. Second point is on the geopolitical aspects. The geopolitical, the European Commission is supposed to be a geopolitical commission. We have all now the signals on the tensions and the sources of conflict over the world linked to water. And I think MENA has explained to us better than anybody in the Jordan Valley, the acute and severe situation. And these tensions will probably grow up if there is no strong response. And this has to be taken into account in the response of the international community. And that's very well presented in the last report of the GIEC, the IPCC. There was a recent release of the synthesis of all the three working groups of the IPCC in March, and that was obvious. I mean, it was even hard for me to complete the reading of the 150 pages. It was so hard in terms of alarming signals for the next 30 years. We're talking about salinity in the Nile River by 2050, which is tomorrow. It's my children or my great children. Will leave that. It is half of Alexandria in Egypt over either over under the water or in salinity area, which dramatic impact on the population. And I think the strong links that this report showed on IPCC was the correlation between water scarcity and vulnerable groups, and that it affects. In priority, it affects mostly the most vulnerable segments of the population, households, women in local communities. And I think that was also the strong correlation that was, for me, a very important findings that is now, I think, is very robust data that they have been collecting in the last 25 years. So there is no doubt about that. Last but not least, on the EU response, the EU response is threefold. You know that now in the current context, we're not talking about increasing funds, but we're talking about increasing the impact of our interventions. First, by improving the governance and the better targeting, better governance, and also choosing the right partners. So it's not only central authorities, local authorities, it's also working with and through the local communities, with the CSOs organizations, most of them women organizations, where we have the largest impact, and in countries like Morocco, Tunisia, and even Egypt, where this society is not only considered as a human rights activist, but also as a great implementers of actors in the water sector, we can have here the greatest impact. Secondly, on a more integrated approach, it's not about taking working on water supply, water distribution, treatment of water and reuse of treated water. It's also considering water as a nexus with food issues, food security, and also health, agriculture. So it's an overall nexus. We've seen how the food issues can be acute suddenly in a few months. So this has to be taken in this broader perspective. And last but not least, it's working with partners. It's not the EU alone. It's EU with France, with Italy, with Morocco. It's how to build European partnerships, international partnerships, to have much larger impact. In Tunisia, for example, as Sharafat was mentioning in Morocco, as well as in Tunisia, we have realized that we have much more impact working with other partners. For example, in Morocco, the EU is putting 50 million euros on water-related issues But together with the investment, we are trying to mobilize 10 times that amount of money in terms of investment in Morocco for that sector. The same for Tunisia, where we will try to leverage 1.7 billion euros in this Team Europe approach together with other member states and member state agencies. I stop here and I'll be, of course, happy to answer any questions. I have Fidelma connected, who is our person following Egypt in particular, who could give concrete examples on water and women interventions. Christina can present a project on cities, because she has followed that, and Frédéric on a regional water project.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, great, thank you. So first we listen to Fidelma to share more about her work in Egypt. Yes, there she is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Morning.
Hi, a pleasure to be with you all today. And thanks a lot to all of our speakers. Very inspirational. I'm the person covering Egypt in our unit, in the unit of Guillaume. And Egypt, as we know, is one of the countries that's are expected to suffer one of the most as a result of climate change and the impacts that Guillaume has just been speaking about. It's already a water poor country, and it's expected to decrease the water per person by 22% over the next decade, and that's only taking into account the increase in population, which is growing on average by more than 2% annually. So the growing needs for domestic water use for human consumption alone is going to be immense, and this is without taking into consideration the uses for agricultural purposes. On top of that, then in Egypt, you have the situation of huge water losses and environmental pollution, which are immense challenges which will have to be faced and contribute further to the water scarcity in Egypt. So it's one of the reasons, I mean, we, the European Union, have been so active in the water sector in Egypt over the past decade, and we've been assisting the government in improving the quality of life for people by working on expanding water coverage, and particularly on water quality and providing wastewater treatment, and like Guillaume has been mentioning. I mean, we have put on the table already over 500 million in grants in the water sector in Egypt, and we've managed with that to, in this Team Europe approach, working with the European financial institutions, we've leveraged over 3 billion in investments for the water sector. And through these programs until now, I mean, we've been working in over 12 governorates, providing employment, permanent jobs of over 25,000, short-term jobs of 500,000, a lot of these in rural areas. And the programs have and will, when they're completed, will affect over 16.5 million people. So one example is the Lake Karan wastewater project, which has helped over 3 million people in 4 governorates obtain access to water and sanitation. And a new phase of the program is to increase the coverage to other governorates. So we have a huge raft of ongoing wastewater treatment programs and depollution programs, and working as well on the construction of modern irrigation systems. Now, alongside all of that, we've been talking about governance and the need for better planning in the sector, and we've been working with the Egyptian government on the National Rural Sanitation Programme and the National Water Resources Strategy for Egypt, which covers the period 2017 to 2050. And I mean, amongst the objectives is to improve the water quality, enhance water management use, enhance the availability of fresh water resources, and improve the enabling environment for integrated water resources management. But a key issue of all of this for us is to ensure that gender considerations are being incorporated into all of these strategies. So it's a huge element for us. And it's the same with all of the programs that we're implementing together with our EFI partners, that we are ensuring that gender considerations are being brought to play in the design of the programs and also in the implementation of the programs. So as to ensure that the programs do respond to the specific needs of women and girls. And just to give a nice example before I finish, because I know my colleagues want to intervene as well, in recognition of the role of women in the issue of water, we have set up an award to recognize the contribution to enhancing water resources management and protecting water from pollution. And it was presented to a group of female farmers who are board members of water user associations from different governments. So we'd like to scale up initiatives like that. And then just on the issue of leadership, which was mentioned earlier, and ensuring women's empowerment. I mean, we're also working alongside the specific programs in the water sector, doing a lot in that field in Egypt with specific programs precisely on ensuring greater women leadership and greater involvement of women in senior roles in government. So hopefully with programs like that, we can also make the link to the water sector. So thank you very much. With that, I'll stop.
Okay, thank you, Fidelma, for giving us these very concrete examples. Perhaps Christina Castella, maybe you can just 1 minute share a bit about the water work that you're doing. Yeah, okay, if so, everyone can hear. Also, the people online, I think it's better if you stand here. Yeah, because the microphone is there, and otherwise, yeah, that's even better. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, just very briefly, I just wanted to highlight that as a commission, we have worked and continue to work now for a number of years on trying to empower cities and to work at the cities level. We know that cities are at the forefront of climate change. They have a key role to play in combating climate change. And so we have had a number of programs and initiatives such as Med. Of course, we're talking about the MENA region, which has been ongoing for a number of years. This program, for example, is quite interesting because it works on supporting cities in developing their SECAPs, which are their sustainable energy and climate action plans, which also thereby gives them the opportunity then to partake in the Covenant of Mayors for energy and climate. And in fact, the project also supports the Mediterranean branch of the Global Covenant of Mayors. So it's quite interesting. Now, building on this successful project, which is still ongoing, we have actually designed a new program called Climate for Cities. It was designed in 2021 and has started implementing in 2022. So now the projects are already a year and a half. And what is interesting about this program is, for one thing, of course, it is focused on helping cities and supporting their implementation of their local plans dealing with climate and environment. Be there, for example, the SECAPs or any other local plans which they have developed. Of course, here we have promoted an integration of the gender components into these plans. And we are supporting not only the implementation, but also the access to funding, which is always a big issue and very hard. So the EU is only contributing up to 50% in the implementation of these programs. And we have encouraged the cities to try and find the rest of the funding. So our grants will be 2.5 to 3.5 million euros, and they have to come up with the rest of the money. Hopefully through not only public sources, but also private sources, which, is not an easy thing to do. But so far we have some interesting results already. With regards to the implementation of these projects, we've always, we've basically encouraged programs that have both a hard component, so let's say an infrastructure component, which could be dealing with any number of areas related to climate action, energy, sustainable water, resource management. We have one project that's mainly focused on this, urban mobility and so on. And we also have encouraged the cities to design the program in a way that there would be a soft component complementing the hard component. And here we've requested that they get together with NGOs or universities, research organizations, women organizations, so that they would design these complementary actions in a way that's, let's say, integrated in the local community. So so far so good. And I'm happy to respond to more specific questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. So Frédéric Fortune, just I will ask you to be very brief. Yeah, 1 minute. Talk about, because you're managing a water project. It's not easy to be brief. Because there's so much also to say about this topic. So just really short. Yeah, there is a PowerPoint.
Maybe we don't need the PowerPoint if it's there. Yeah, I just wanted to. Yes, I just wanted to give a concrete example on how the EU mainstreams gender issues in the water management sector and in our programming. And just I want to present a project that I'm managing, which is called Water and Environment Support Project, which is tackling water scarcity in the Mediterranean region. So it's a regional project from Morocco to Syria. So tackling water scarcity through water management and non-revenue water activities, tackling pollution through wastewater management, and that has developed a real gender component as a transversal activity. The project amount about 10 million euros, but it's a soft project, mainly institutional, which includes knowledge transfer, promotion of innovative technology in the water sector and sanitation, like nature-based solution, and obviously wastewater management. And then I just wanted to show that very, very rapidly how the gender is mainstream through in this project, through mainly the West. So maybe we can go to the next slide. Yes, I'm not sure how it works.
Okay.
Well, never
Okay.
mind. We don't need
Yes,
it. Yes. We'll forget the PowerPoint because it will take too long. So, well, there is the project has developed a quite ambitious gender action plan and divided into categories the various activities of the project, and with different areas where the gender can be more mainstreamed. So there are 3 categories of activities, and there is a attempt to push as much as possible the integration of women in this project.
Okay.
So the project has also developed guidelines, which are distributed and used throughout the project implementation, with a code of conduct showing general understanding of gender issues. The guidelines are going through the planning and the implementing of the project, and so on. I think that I will not enter into detail, and we can come back on this question and answer session. And then the project has also, and it's quite important, developed disaggregated indicators for gender and youth, by the way, and each of the activities are analyzed and monitored through these disaggregated indicators. I think this is what I wanted to show, that we have general strategy on gender, but each of our projects we are developing also this gender mainstreaming activities.
Yeah,
That's
okay, that's very
I'm
interesting.
ready to answer.
Yes, thank you. So the water and environment support project. Okay, so I would like to also leave some time later for discussion and questions. But before, we have invited I think 5 guests for a really short intervention, just 2 to 3 minutes. To also react to what has been said so far. So first, I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency Saja Majali, Ambassador of the Embassy of Jordan. I think for the sake of the sound, it's better if you would stand here. So I'd like to invite you to stand here. So we heard already from your colleague from the Jordan Valley Authority. We got some brilliant insights on how to cope with water scarcity in your country and how to involve women. So I would like to ask you, as Ambassador of Jordan to the European Union, if you would like to add anything that to what Manar has said and about Jordan's commitment to water management and gender equality.
Yes, thank you very much. Indeed, advancement and empowerment and eliminating all forms of discrimination against women and promoting gender equality are high on the agenda of Jordan. And we continue in implementing our international commitments in this regard. And we continue to take concrete steps to mainstream gender perspectives in all our policies, programs, strategies, and plans, to ensure that women are empowered as well as realize their full potential. This includes also in the water sector. with intersecting. This is very important because water is an important area that intersects with other areas: food security, health, livelihoods, education, poverty, and it touches on many rights and SDGs. Her Excellency spoke about water scarcity, but we really need to highlight this because we are the second most scarce country in the world, and water will continue to grow scarcer. In 30 years, some models even predict that in 15 years, 30% less water will be in Jordan. This is why the projects that are being undertaken are very important. And in this regard, since the EU and member states are here, just to say that Jordan continues its efforts to address water scarcity in these projects. And this is why we appreciate the support and assistance we are receiving from the EU in this regard. The EU continues to support Jordan's efforts in increasing its water supply, constructing and rehabilitating wastewater and treatment plants, pipelines, upgrading the sewage networks. And currently, we are working with EU support and EU financial institutions with the EIB to support priority water sector investments that includes projects that contribute to a number of areas, and with the ERBD to promote green investments. The EU is supporting flagship projects, and Her Excellency spoke of the Aqaba Amman water desalination project, a lifeline project for us, and financing special measures in favor of Jordan in supporting the green economy for the Syrian refugees, as well as the individual measure for the green economy. And in both these, gender equality and women girls empowerment are significant objectives in the action in the projects under these measures. Where women empowerment is foreseen in different components. Projects that the EU also fund under the Regional Trust Fund response to the Syria crisis. Madad, most recent Madad report has shown, stated that the terms of available gender disaggregated data have shown that women and men have access to safely managed water to a similar extent in Jordan, and a number of projects were implemented there with a specific objective of providing safe and equitable access to gender-appropriate sanitation and wastewater services. Jordan's third National Green Growth Plan, the water sector part of it for 2021 and 2025, specifies that mainstreaming gender in strategies and plans is very important objective to achieve social development and poverty reduction. And it aims to increase equity by distributing the benefits of economic development and access to services. And it acknowledges basically that access to water sanitation services is particularly important for women, since presence or absence of safe and sufficient water supply, as well as improved sanitation facilities can have a disproportionate effect on the lives of women and girls. Our water sector plan also restates the national water sector's commitment to ensure that gender equity and sensitivity are mainstreamed in the management, project planning, and monitoring processes, and specific measures that need to be taken as part of the national water strategy include a number of targets in this regard. And the most recent national water plan and its goal for promotes gender inclusion and youth empowerment throughout the water sector, with the key objectives being among which increasing women's participation in the water sector itself and representation in decision making in leadership positions. And we've just heard the Secretary General and seen her, and the continued implementation of the current gender policy for water sector adopted in 2020 with the support of USAID, which represents a formal commitment by the Ministry of Water and Irrigation and all other institutions to integrate gender equality into the policies and activities of the plan. Within the policies, and very quickly, I point to two things. One, the gender in home and community water management sector. Women play an important part and role in water resources management and conservation in Jordan. And women also have demonstrated a great ability to learn and effectively practice new skills. And in this regard, I point to a number of funded projects that have been successful in Jordan, such as female plumbers, all male-dominated area, water-wise women who have won a prize through, and women selling water-saving devices. All projects were managed in cooperation with local NGOs and community-based organizations. And in this regard, we underline the importance of this partnership, both at with the different NGOs. And just finally, promoting representation in leadership and senior and managerial places in the Ministry of Labor is important, as the Ministry of Water and Irrigation remains to be important for the government, as women only make up around 11% of those. If I'm correct, Her Excellency may wish to correct me if my numbers are not correct in this regard. And while women make around half the engineering graduates in Jordan, they only represent 14% of those participating economically at the national level. Hence, the need to continue to work on trying to empower women engineers in this very important sector. With this, I end. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here. Indeed, this is very important for our region, because water is a scarce commodity, because we have a lot of refugees that come. I didn't speak on the projects and programs that will be for another time, but always a gender dimension in all our projects, whether they relate to water or any other sector, include an important gender dimension, so as to empower women and girls to assume their lives in the community and be able to better the requirements of their day-to-day lives. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Regina Jani. Thank you. This was very valuable contribution. Now I would like to invite Ms. Cécile Faubert, Deputy Head of the Mission for Democratic Governance from the French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs. So Cécile, we heard earlier from Julia from UNOP Cities Alliance that you're planning a new regional program of water governance and women empowerment in Morocco, Tunisia, Mauritania, so supported by your ministry. So my question to you is, why has France chosen to launch such a program, and what are the expectations?
Thank you so much for the invitation and to answer this question. Before answering to your question, I really want to thank the participants, because I learned a lot today in such a short time. So thank you so much to our also guests from Morocco and Jordan to share your point of view and your experience on the ground. Just to let you know that before I was in Tanzania, I was posted in Tanzania, and what I learned from there is that there are a lot of conflict between agriculture and farmers, and also with the urban area and also in the rural area. And what I learned also is the importance of the agriculture. The way you produce, if you produce with an intensive way, which require a lot of chemicals and a lot of water, for sure you will have an impact on the water resources. And so I think that also the European Commission mentioned agriculture as a key point on this problematic. And this is linked, all is linked. I mean, gender is linked with climate change, and agriculture for me was also is also key. So the way you produce is really important. That we change the way we produce. I come from south of France, and even in south of France, we can see the impact of the way we lead agriculture for the last decades. So thank you so much for your contribution. So to come back to your question, just to present briefly the project, because it was already presented by my colleague Julia. So the objective of the project is to improve women's access to drinking water and to the management of water resources in urban areas in the context of increasing water stress due to climate change. So in order to achieve this objective, the project is part of the governance approach and aims to improve the local water management in the 3 localities, so in Tunisia, Morocco, and Mauritania. So the project is fully aligned with the French priorities for action, which is the new international strategy for gender equality. So as you may know, our strategy guides the implementation of the French feminist diplomacy by integrating gender equality issues across all components of our external action. So our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Catherine Colonna, stressed the need to work on gender and climate. So this is completely online with our strategy, and we will continue to strengthen these thematics together. So just to let you know that by 2025, 75% of the project financed by the French official aid will promote gender equality. But it's quite ambitious, but we're doing our best to achieve this thing. So for France, it's also really important to increase the aid channel through the civil society organization. And so now we also have a special funds to finance the feminist association from the South. So through this fund, launched by President Macron 3 years ago, we already supported nearly 1,000 feminist organizations, and mostly in Africa. 80% of these feminist organizations are based in Africa. So it represents 133 million euros who have already been mobilized, and this project led by Alliance is part of this fund. So why did we choose to launch this project? Because it's based on 2 observations. The first observation concerning gender inequality. So women are rarely considered as a real actor of change in the local governance of essential services and adaptation to climate change. The gender approach is too often neglected. So as example, only 40% of the OECD countries' bilateral aid for climate change is considered as gender sensitive. Only 40%, very low. We have a lot to do to increase that figure. And also the figure on the aid specifically targeting gender equality as a primary objective remains between 4% and 5% only among the GAC member countries on bilateral aid. So again, we have to focus on that and to increase this number. Women are generally in charge of decisions related to water, energy, and waste management at the household level, as it was, and it was presented by our colleagues. So for us, this project remains a pilot project. It is a seed project, but we think that we can scale up it with the help of our of the others partners, and for sure European Commission. Actors on that. So thank you so much for the invitation, and I think that we are together on the same line and we can do more on that status.
Yeah. So okay. Thank you for this important message. We have then I think a speaker, someone who will intervene online. So it's Ms. Doha Zamel, who is a water consultant in the Water, Environment and Blue Economy Division of the Union for the Mediterranean. And so we heard already from our colleague from Jordan Valley Authority, how important collaboration at the regional level is on water management, dealing with the scarce water resources. So here, my question to yes, okay, good. So Ms. Zamel is which initiatives have you with the Union for the Mediterranean undertaken in when it comes to transboundary water management, and also, of course, integrating this this gender lens into the work? So thank you, Zamel, please go ahead.
Thank you all. Good morning, everyone. I'm so thrilled and delighted to be with this esteemed and distinguished guests. And I would like to send a special thanks to Mr. Al-Mu'taz Abbadi, the Deputy Secretary General in charge for Water, Environment and Blue Economy Division in the UFM, who entrusted me to represent him in this important event. So going back to your question, yes, what are the initiatives that have been implemented by the UFM on this topic, and what is the role the organization have in this regard? Well, before having an overview of these initiatives, I want to highlight and shed the light on the situation of the water scarcity in the Mediterranean countries and how women are impacted by the water scarcity. So we all know that in many Mediterranean countries, women have traditionally been responsible for collecting water from wells, spring, or other sources. And I myself have witnessed this case during a field trip in a framework of a project in rural region in my country, Tunisia, and if actions are not taken, I'm afraid this will be a looming reality. So collecting water from the springs is a time-consuming and physically demanding task, often requiring women to carry heavy containers of water over long distances. And with the scarcer water resources, the task becomes even harder and more difficult, since women are obliged to walk further distances to find water, which leaves them with less time that otherwise would have been spent for other activities such as education and income generating work. Furthermore, water is scarce, especially in the Mediterranean, as it is known as one of the world's climate change hotspots, warming 20% faster than the global average. So women sometimes are forced to rely on unsafe and unreliable sources of water. And this could be happen in such areas of conflict where unfortunately the minimum standards of hygiene and sanitation are not applied, which can lead to health problems such as waterborne diseases. And women sometimes have to prioritize household water use over their own personal hygiene, which can further impact their health and well-being. At the UFM, going back to your, the main core of the question, at the UFM, women and youth are at the heart of its priority, focusing on empowering and engaging them as agents for positive change. The UFM has a central role in the region as an enabler and policy coordinator of initiatives and projects with tangible impacts. And alongside its partner, they have consolidated a work ground to empower women impacted by water scarcity, for instance, through the Smart Desert project, which is a labeled project by the UFM. The project will provide women with better farming practices and will improve the livelihood of particularly vulnerable women, especially widows and female heads of household, And the project will target among which the women-owned home-based businesses in the agriculture sector, which eventually will ensure their contribution to the household income, leading to a positive socioeconomic impact. And the beneficiary women are both Jordanians and Syrian refugees in Jordan. Moreover, another project facilitated by the UFM with the financial support of SIDA and implemented by GW Mediterranean, the Matchmaker 2. This project supports the inclusion of female farmers in the management of wastewater use for irrigation and in the promotion of agribusiness. The project was inaugurated already 2 weeks ago by UFM, SIDA, and GWPMAT, and has earned recognition from all involved stakeholders, local farmers, women in the water sector association, and so on. And this project represents an excellent model or an excellent scalable and measurable model for further replication in the MENA region.
Okay, thank you, Doha. I'm sorry I have to cut you short because we need some time for the discussion, but thanks a lot for sharing all these
okay, just 2 other initiatives and I will finish. Yeah. Okay. We have also launched recently the water and youth engagement strategy on empowering young women and men in the entrepreneurship in the water sector. The strategy is still on the phase of implementation, but we envision to encourage equal participation of young women in the water management and decision-making processes by providing them the appropriate education, trainings, knowledge, and skills needed to participate in the water sector. Last but not least, under the agreement signed by UFM and SIDA, there is a great focus on the gender mainstreaming, in which the UFM aims at enhancing women participation and gender balanced participation to the water activities that ensures the involvement of women and men in the development of the policies in the region. And the UFM will work for providing concrete opportunities for women to contribute to the development of the water policy and actions in the region and the promotion of women participation in the decision-making process. Just want to conclude with 2 words, that the women often bear the burden of water scarcity more than men due to the traditional role, especially in the MENA region, in the Arab countries, such collecting and managing water for household use and agriculture. And having said this insightful and thorough intervention from the guests and the testimonies, I would say that a woman, when it is empowered with water, she can not only change her city, but an entire generation. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm sorry if I didn't respect the time allocated. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much also for ending with these very powerful words. You mentioned SIDA already, and we have here Mr. Mikael Olofsson, counselor and SIDA coordinator of the Swedish Permanent Representation to the European Union. So please, yes, I would like to invite you to come here. We know that Sweden and SIDA have worked a lot on water in the water sector, and also gender equality is very high on the foreign policy agenda. So can you tell us, ideally in 2 minutes maximum, what are the key ingredients? I know it's a challenge to the key ingredients in dealing with water scarcity in cities from a gender perspective.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here, and it's very interesting to listen to all the distinguished speakers and all the information that has been shared. So I will try to be very brief, because it's difficult to add anything that has not been said already. But I would also like to mention that SIDA has been supporting and partnering with Cities Alliance since 20 years. We're very happy with that cooperation. What I'm trying to do is to mention some few key elements which we think are key to achieve a transformative and sustainable change in the context we are discussing today. And I think it's already been mentioned, but I will just use a few keywords. I think women's rights we talk about, women's voice, women's leadership, women's role in governance, and also maybe the importance to apply the bottom up and the top down this way. And as you know, we've been working for a long time with the mainstream media equality and development cooperation. And of course, very important for us is how we can advance that with in our partnerships, because the change will not be done by us, but of course will be done by the partners that are actually working. They're out there. And maybe to say two words, two examples. One example, which I think is very good from the bottom-up perspective, which have shown good results. That's an organization called EcoPeace, and they work with education that has to do with awareness and targeting female students, young teachers, and so forth to actually make them aware about the importance of getting involved in decision-making and governance around water. So that's one example from bottom up. And from top down, I would like to mention this Union of the Mediterranean, which Sweden is a member. And there was this multi-stakeholder coalition I'm sure you're aware of. And there was an initiative launched now at the action agenda at the UN Water Conference. But that call has to do with how leadership in water management and governance, also protecting women's water rights and narrowing the gender gap between policy and practice, how that could be actually fostered. So what we see here, awareness is not enough, but we also have to have initiative from above that actually facilitate that change we'd like to see. So that's in short. Also to say maybe that water scarcity is linked to rights. I think that's a very important aspect of all this. I will stop there. I think many of you have already said what needs to be said. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot. Great. Our last intervention, Mr. Rafik Hiam Zizou, Foreign Affairs Advisor from the Embassy of Algeria. Please, I would like to invite you also for the last intervention, and then we will have some time for Q&A. So we heard already a lot of about the experiences from Jordan, from Morocco, and in light of what has been said, what is the experience you could share specifically from Algeria in dealing with water issues and from a gender perspective?
First of all, thank you for inviting us, and I hope I will not be long. Algeria is a Mediterranean and a big African country which are facing water scarcity, and which is due to the decline of rainfall and cycle drought cycles. So the scarcity of water is the main concern of the Algerian government. And that's why the Algerian government developed the following program. Just to give you an idea, the availability of water in Algeria is around 17 billion meters cubed per year. And the ratio per inhabitant is a little bit very, very low, 600 meters cubed per year, which is it's a low level comparing to the international standards. So that's why the government developed the National Water Plan with the objective of ensuring the availability of water and ensuring also the balancing of water supply between regions. And the last but not least, ensuring the water governance. So 2,355 operations were carried, and Algeria built several infrastructures. The main one is the Bni Haroun hydraulic complex, which is a very big infrastructure, capacity 960 million meter cube over 40 kilometers. But the Algerian government is aware that the traditional water infrastructures are not enough. So we use desalination projects, a strategic complement to the traditional and conventional sources. We have we built 11 stations in those locations with a big capacity of 200,000 meter cube per day. And the government is planning to build 5 other stations which were in project with a very big capacity of 300,000 meters cubed each. So the desalination projects are just the complement of the traditional and conventional infrastructure, because the desalination projects cover only 20% of water needs, and the government aim to level the water availability 60%. Oh yes, the last one. So much time. Yeah, the last slide.
Yes.
There's no only scarcity of water, the scarcity of time. So projects relating to women empowerment, just few words. The traditional solidarity of Algerian people is reflected by the concern of the government to ensuring women empowerment and gender equality by linking different issues. We have developed in coordination with international institutions such projects, the project with JIZ, which is with the main objective to build 5 female cooperatives by using the traditional know-how to develop biological resources and processed products by using traditional know-how and also their main power. In ecological sites in El Qala Park in the east and in the National Park in the east. The second project is a VEBS project with the International Labour Organization, which aims to develop the capacity of women in dealing with several issues such as water scarcity, biological diversity, and so on. And it's worth to mention the International Day of Rural Women, which was organized in coordination with the United Nations. And in this framework, the agency of microcredits allowed women to have benefit of millions of 60,000 of grants, microcredits grants. It embarks to assemble all their capacity in different issues such as the water activity. And the last thing is the first national seminar on Algerian women. They called during this seminar to foster and to develop women empowerment in different sectors, including the water sector. Finally, I think that our water strategy is based on 2 pillars: the fight regularly against the water scarcity, and the other pillar is to ensuring equal gender equality and female empowerment. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have a bit of time, about 15 minutes for questions from people here in the room and also online. So please raise your hand and say where you work. And if your question is dedicated to someone here in the panel, someone specifically, yes, please.
I have one. First of all, I wrote down my questions, so I'm reading them. But, thank you for the panel, for their insightful conversation and comments. My name is Safa Sharafi, and I'm an architect, an urbanist, and gender expert. My question is directed to Madame Sharafat. In the context of Morocco, we know that it's suffering also from desertification, coastal erosion, water scarcity, and so on. But it also ranks 17th on 180 countries on the NDGAIN index, which is the vulnerability to climate change. My question is, how does the government ensure that its efforts are not only isolated within specific sectors, but also that they're effectively combined and coordinated across various sectors? I would also like to know, how does the Moroccan government encourage and support bottom-up initiatives that actively involve local organizations to address these challenges? I mean, we both know that there is the Alliance Marocaine for the climate and the développement durable, but there are not so many CSOs that are raising awareness about climate change on the ground.
Okay, great question. Perhaps we can take one more from the audience online.
This is one very related to Morocco, so maybe we can have another one. Thank you all for sharing such insightful experiences. What is the current state of cross-border cooperation with regards to climate resilient water management? For instance, with the governments of neighboring countries such as Syria and Iraq.
Okay, yeah, good question. So let's first to the first question about how the government is ensuring integrated approaches and also bottom-up approaches. So please, Sharafa.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. I know that Morocco is going through a very severe drought, which the result of 3 or 4 years of decrease of the rainfall. So dealing with this context is the top of the agenda of the government, and it has been launching several initiatives and programs to increase investment into water governance, including building desalination project, reducing water losses in the pipeline, integrated water resource. We know that the water sector is very complicated to deal because there is a lot of stakeholders who are but the problem is how to make a national policy. And Morocco is one of the model who try to put all the stakeholders around the table, including civil society. Civil society are part of the decision in some way, through their organization, through their confederation, through the gathering of the farmers. So now the government put a lot of money and mobilized a huge investment, increasing investment in non-conventional waters. Desalination is a model. We will be launched the Casablanca desalination plant and the Oriental desalination plant, which will be include as well the PPP, through PPP as a mode of building this desalination. The farmers are in the table as well through their organization to defend their rights. And sometimes very difficult to find the right decision how to deal with drinking water and the farmers' needs in the water sectors. And I know that the farmers are suffering as well because it has been developed through their development plans, but without taking into account water scarcity. And the key His Majesty give his guideline for the government to deal with this context, and they put a lot of money. They mobilize a huge fund to deal with this, and of course the government set up several tools and mechanisms to involve the civil society. You mentioned the Alliance of Climate Change. They are to propose the new rules, to propose new model, and to propose maybe innovative solution to deal with this context. But we are facing a very, very difficult context in this year as a result of 3 or 4 years from the drought.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There's another question from Anar, but I think you already touched upon this cross-border cooperation, but it's very critical issue also with the refugees that you mentioned coming from Syria. So putting also additional pressure on already scarce water resources. So, but I think this is also very of interest to many of us to understand how this cross-border cooperation works. So specifically, the question was about Syria and Iraq. So please.
Syria and Iraq, there's, as I mentioned before that, there's an agreement between Jordan and Israel, Jordan and Syria, and from Israel side, they respect the agreements that we signed with them, and they obey the articles that in this agreement. And there is a joint water committee between the two sides, and we met 2 to 3 times per year in Jordan or in Israel, and we discuss all the technical problems or technical issues. And now there is one of the mega projects that financed by one of the donors between Jordan and Israel. and in the coming weeks, it will be implemented to be finished and operation, which is to transfer waters from Israel to Jordan. And other projects, which is the blue-green deal, which is the water against solar power between Jordan and Israel. And it's now under processing, it's under negotiation between the two sides. Regarding Jordan and Syria, also there's an agreement signed in 1984, as I mentioned, and the agreement itself, it's not fair for Jordan. And they accept or they give permission for Jordan to build dams between the border, Jordan and Syria. And now we are, because the situation in Syria now, it's not stable, but we called them for a meeting to sit together and modify the agreements, because if we go historical to the data regarding the inflow to Al Wahda Dam, the storage didn't exceed 20 to 30% from the total storage capacity of this dam. So they said that they are ready to sit together in the same table, and we are going to discuss with them regarding this agreement. Regarding Syria and Iraq, I have nothing to say regarding this, because there's national water with Iraq. It's an issue between Iraq. The question is not clear for me, what's the relation between Jordan, Syria, and Iraq in water issues. So I have no answer regarding this.
Yeah, no, thank you. Are there more questions from the audience? Yeah, Daniel?
So much. Daniel from ECDPM. So I just want to ask this question to Madam Fatah. You spoke very well about the national issues and in terms of governance and all that. But basically, I just want to ask, what is the state of water availability of access, especially in urban areas, especially also in informal settlements, basically? And how does this basically empower or disempower women in terms of their access to water, and whether they, because I know in some informal settlements, you take a lot of time before you collect water, and that takes time out for a lot of other activities that you can basically do. So I want to understand better that.
Excuse me, I missed the last part. Share water between urban and?
In urban areas, because you dived a lot about the national issues and farmers and things like that, but in urban areas, what is the state of water access and availability in urban areas in Morocco and in Jordan? And then, especially also in informal settlement in the urban areas, the peri-urban areas. And how does that then affect, how is it affecting women, whether it is available, whether it is not available, or in terms of the time factors?
Actually, in Morocco, in urban area, we have the full access to water. So the rate for access to water is almost 100% in the rural area, in the urban area. But in the rural area, it has been done a huge effort. Comparing from 1994 to now, it's almost 97% from the rural population have access to water, not directly by direct connection, but maybe by the collective connection. But the problem now is how to deal with the water scarcity. In some cities, Morocco, we have we were obligated to make access restriction we cut down in the some time slots, especially in the Wajda, for example, in Oriental area, with the agree with the elected body. So the operator and for the elected body that will be, we have to restrict the water access. The problem is how to make the women to take parts of the decision. So the women to choose the time slot, to push them to save water in their household, to tell them how to save water and fight against losses. Maybe we need to develop new tools to deal with the water shortage in the cities. This is maybe the topic of the projects we are working in FIGIC, but maybe from this success project, we can duplicate the case in other cities to put women in the table and to make the decision as a participatory decision. not only in some in rural, but in other parts of Morocco. We need these tools. Personally, I'm elected in my hometown. I know that I can impact the decision, but in the other part, there is no woman who, they lack of skills to impact decision and to make the decision as a collective way. We need these tools and mechanisms to make women as a part of the decision to cope with the water shortage and water scarcity at the city level.
Okay, thank you. Yes, perhaps
for Jordan, I'd like to emphasize in a very important point that the women, even the men in Jordan, they have no role or responsibility in collecting the water and transfer it to be used by them. It's the role and responsibility of the government to serve all the household in Jordan with water. The same case for the farmers. 60% or more, the agriculture area in Jordan, it's in the Jordan Valley. Even the government, it's their role and responsibility to serve the farm units in the Jordan Valley with irrigation water. So for the urban area, it's totally served by water networks and sanitation, of course. And for the rural, I think more than 80% of the villages, it's served by water for domestic use. Yani Jordan invests billion JDs to serve water for the people in urban and rural area. Yeah, although we suffering from the shortage of water, but the government in Jordan do their effort to serve all the people in Jordan and the refugees from other countries. As I said, that they shared Jordanian people with all infrastructure and resources and services. In the same, there's a balancing in distributing the service, the service for all, whether it's Jordanian people or refugees or even the investors. We didn't distinguish between in supplying or providing the service for Jordanian people or others.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Very informative. Maybe we have time for a last question online.
A question about the tensions between. A question for the first speaker. You mentioned the innovative solutions that women came up with when tensions between farmers and communities, households arise. Could you elaborate what kind of solutions were put or found? I think
yeah, there is almost the tension between the users, especially in the drought period. We have to manage this, but we have the priorities. Priority, of course, of the drinking water. We have to secure the access for human consumption, and the rest of water we can share among users. We had to deal with this problem in some parts of Morocco by saving and safeguarding the trees, the fruit trees first, before delivering water to the other use of the farmers. But of course, the first and the priority to save drinking water, and we have to deal with that. And we have to push also for the high added value of the agriculture to develop their own system and to invest in non-conventional water. We have the example for example in Agadir, which is a huge part of agriculture, potential agriculture, who the farmers contribute in the capex for the desalination plant to save their investment in agriculture, because there is this kind of agriculture is destinated for the exports. So the general benefits they can do that. But the problem for the small farmers, for the solidarity for the small farmers, we have to save this kind of farmers to keep people stable in their region and to do not push them to move to the cities and face a very huge solution.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think it's unless there is a really pressing last question or reaction from the audience. Yeah, please.
Yes, from the Belgian Development agency. Perhaps my question is for Julia, but it's a rebound on something that Sharafa has said about this stereotype of male sector. And I think that Julia, in your project, when you will do the collecting data and also analyzing the obstacles and bias, you will have also this approach of integrating more women in the workforce related to water, because I think that it's important that women will take over in decision-making process. But if you want to come with innovation, you need also to be in the part of the construction and thinking about the system. And so is it one of the aspects tackled by your project?
Yes, thank you for this comment. In fact, the three components of the project will have will be centered around women. So in the data collection, women will be included in collecting data and sharing also their experiences. We will also work on capacity building with the local authorities that sometimes they don't have, in fact, the right tools also to understand and to see also the issues from a different perspective. This happens also in other projects that we did, there is also it's really about changing perspective on things and almost putting a different lens. And then the part of really building small infrastructure will also train women in building. So it's also part, we have also a system, it's called Care for Work also that can be integrated, where also women at the local level, we're also talking about very small places, remote areas, where they can also learn a technique, build, and then also manage, in fact, the water system. It should be integrated.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's very challenging to summarize what has been said today, but I think what we heard at the beginning especially is that women play an invisible role in water access, water management, and this makes them so vulnerable. And it's also due to lack of access to finance, decision-making, all the time that they spend impacting water and so on. And then this also impacts, for example, their education, access to education. So what we need is, and we heard a lot of examples, is gender transformative approaches. And I think generally the awareness is there. How to do this, it's not so easy. And there are many barriers to that. I thought one was really interesting is cultural barriers too, that it's not just because a woman is in a high position in dealing with water access that it's so easily accepted culturally. So you need really, like we heard, bottom up, top down approaches and a whole of society change really for this to be successful. And also important, and what came back in a lot of the examples of the projects also by the European Commission, I heard from GIZ in Algeria, SIDA, it's really these, and especially with the UNOPS project, what you're also trying to do is make it as inclusive and participatory as possible, involving women and men, and community-based organizations, CSOs, policymakers. You really need this, like I said, whole of society approach. So that's why I find these type of projects really promising and important to scale up. So I thank you very much for your attention, everyone here in the room and online. For everyone who is here, we are offering lunch, so you can stay for a bit, also to continue the discussion and to network. So thank you very much. Sorry.